What an interview we have coming up right now. You had an exclusive joint interview with President Zelensky of Ukraine and the First Lady.
They are here in the city because of the UN. The President Zelensky addressing the UN Security Council today, set to visit the White House on Thursday to sit down with President Biden. Now, this was the first time sitting down with the First Lady since my visit to Ukraine 2 years ago in the early months of the war. The couple spoke from the heart about their country's ordeal in the war against Russia. At times, they spoke in English, at times in their native language using Ukrainian translators. How are you?
Thanks so much.
President Zelensky. This morning, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, alongside First Lady Olena Zelenska, making their urgent plea for Ukraine's solidarity.
The war is not over, so stay with us, support us. It's vital. Without this support, we will not survive.
To drum up support, President Zelensky attending the UN General Assembly in New York City before meeting President Biden to present what he calls his victory plan to win the fight against Russia. Part of that plan reportedly includes joining NATO. So your victory plan, does it include, and I know you don't want to get into details until you talk to leaders, but negotiating with Russia, and how can you trust someone?
It's not about negotiating with Russia. No, it's about, like I said, it's a bridge to diplomatic way how to stop the war. The bridge is a plan of victory or victorious plan. It's a strengthening of Ukrainian army and Ukrainian people. Only in the strong position we can push Putin to stop the war, diplomatic way. And only with a strong position we can speak. We can speak with any enemies, of course. That's why we're asking our friends, our allies, to strengthen us. It's very important.
The U.S. presidential election is coming up shortly. How do you think that will impact the war, depending on who is victorious?
Не хотілося б, щоб це вплинуло на
I would not want this to influence the support of Ukraine. Of course, I would want that no matter who is elected, that Ukraine does not suffer. And that's why understanding that the policy towards Ukraine can change, and therefore we need to prepare in advance. And that is why the victory plan, I wanted to discuss it with candidates until one of them becomes the president.
Zelensky also meeting with world leaders amid devastating attacks to Ukraine's infrastructure. More than half of Ukraine's power grid now destroyed.
The recent information is that Russia has been using Chinese satellite and taking photos of the details of the objects on nuclear facilities. And on our experience, if Russia takes photos of certain objects, then there is a threat of strikes against the nuclear objects. So that is a nuclear terror. And such things we share with many leaders who can influence Russia and influence Putin.
Zelensky once again asking Biden for permission to use U.S.-backed long-range missiles, saying the weapons could hit air bases that Russia is using to drop hundreds of bombs in eastern Ukraine. What will happen if you're denied permission?
Putin will continue to destroy us, to kill people, to kill children. Absolutely. He will act in this way. We will lose thousands of schools and tens of thousands of lives. That is what will be happening.
An issue close to First Lady Zelenska's heart are the children of Ukraine, an estimated 19,500 now being held in Russia.
They're being told that nobody's looking for them in Ukraine. Nobody needs them in Ukraine. We can't wait. It's dangerous to keep waiting. Unfortunately, bringing them back has been very slow. 388 children have been brought back from Russia. If we are going to bring our children back at this rate, we will need more than 30 years to bring them back.
Parents to 2 children of their own, life for Ukrainians today, a stark contrast to before the start of the war, nearly 950 days ago. I remember, Mrs. Zelenska, when you were talking about your son when I saw you, and he was like, when is this going to be over? What kind of questions are they asking you now?
Same questions, unfortunately. And I remember how we had these very symbolic anniversaries, first 30 days, first 100 days, and then we stopped counting. And it's, I guess, a good thing, because we're trying to look ahead.
As they look towards their future, the couple leaning on each other as they work to protect an entire nation.
When we talked, I loved how you expressed your feelings for your husband. You know, you early days of the war, you didn't see him. Your emotions about your husband and how he has been at the forefront of this in your country.
I am sure of him. I'm glad to be by his side. It's very important for me, and I'm happy that I can be by his side. And I hope very much that I can support him in some way and help him. And I hope he needs that.
So indeed, and I need this.
So that's the positive things that I found for myself.
Is there anything that you want to say to the American people to help them understand where you are?
We are very thankful to people of America, really, from the very beginning. You know, United States being the first country who supported us totally, but we can't. I'm so sorry. I know that you have your challenges and etc. But I have to underline it and to repeat. We can't now be weak. We can't relax because we didn't stop Putin. Didn't stop him in his crazy ideas. That's why we have to be strong, and I'm asking to understand us, to be around us, to support us, as you did at the very beginning of the war. And I think that we are closer to the peace than we think. We are closer to the end of the war. We just have to be very strong, very strong.
Now, Putin's spokesman was asked about Zelensky telling me what you just heard, that he thinks peace and the end of the war are, quote, closer than we think if Western countries help strengthen Ukraine. And the spokesman from Russia doubling down, saying Russia will only end the war when its goals are achieved. But again, President Zelensky speaking at the UN today. He'll speak with President Biden on Thursday, and he says he has a victory plan, victory plan.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see their exchange on Thursday, because we saw from John Kirby earlier today, the president expecting to hear more, also promising to give Ukraine what it needs.
And that's what he wanted to hear. But again, he would not reveal to us. He wanted to wait, as he should, to talk to the leaders. But I cannot forget, May 2022, I was there in Ukraine speaking with the First Lady. And I asked her then, what is your message for the American people? And she said, do not get used to our pain.
Yeah.
Do not get used to our
Big
pain.
danger.
And here we are more than 2 years later. And you can see more of the interview with President Zelensky and the First Lady. It'll air Wednesday on ABC News Live, then on Hulu later.